4 months ago, I made a video about Blockdag. At that time, I was already concerned about the market structure. But today, I want to revisit the story because something is still bothering me. Blockdag was supposed to be moving forward. The token was supposed to be listed. Investors were supposed to gain access to the market. And after years of waiting, many early investors were expecting one simple thing: liquidity, the ability to finally access their investment, the ability to sell if they wanted to, the ability to make their own decision. But let's go back to the beginning. I was not always negative about Blockdag. I was an investor. I trusted the project. I believed in the vision. And like many other investors, I put my money into the pre-sale. That's why this isn't just a story I'm watching from the outside. I experienced it. The pre-sale continued for years. Then there were different phases, different batches, different deadlines, different announcements. The pre-sale seemed to keep going and going and going. At some point you have to ask, when does a pre-sale actually end? Because the project was eventually listed. But even after listing, the selling process didn't simply disappear. It continued under a new label, the after sale. And this is where things become very interesting. I recently saw a Blockdag promotional post saying, "After sale advantage is on." And the message was promoting BDAG at approximately $0.000077. Now compare that with the market price shown by CoinMarketCap. At the time I'm recording this, the market price is around $0.000046. That's a massive difference. So I have a very simple question. If BDAG is already listed, why is the project still selling tokens directly to investors at a price dramatically below the market price? I think this is a question every investor should ask. And I'm not saying this automatically proves anything. I'm asking about the market structure, because we need to look at the entire timeline. For years, investors were told about the pre-sale. The listing was delayed multiple times. The pre-sale continued. Then came listing day. But many early investors couldn't simply access the market and exit as they expected. The market existed, but access to that market was restricted. And when broader access eventually became possible, the market price had already collapsed dramatically from the price many investors had expected to sell at. Some investors were expecting to be able to sell around 5 cents, but the reality was very different. By the time meaningful access became available, the market price had already experienced an enormous decline. This is where my concern has always been. It's not simply, did the token price go down? Crypto prices go up. Crypto prices go down. That's normal. The deeper question is, what happened to the market structure? Imagine being an early investor. You enter a pre-sale. You are told about a future listing. You expect that listing to provide liquidity. But the listing arrives and you can't freely access the market. Then the market price collapses. Then access gradually becomes available. And now, months after listing, the project is still promoting the sale of new BDAG through an after sale. So let's ask the uncomfortable question. What exactly has changed? Because the market is now open, the token is listed, but the project is still selling, and the price being promoted through the after sale is significantly lower than the price visible on the market. That creates another structural question. Where is this additional supply coming from? Who receives it? When can they sell? What is the vesting? What is the actual circulating supply? How much additional supply can enter the market? And most importantly, can the market absorb it? These are not emotional questions. These are structural questions. And this is exactly why I don't like to focus on labels. Scam, legit, FUD, hype. Those words don't help me understand the market. I want to look at the data. I want to look at the tokenomics. I want to look at supply. I want to look at liquidity. I want to look at access. I want to look at the timeline. And I want to compare what was promised with what actually happened. Because 4 months ago, I said something very simple. The real test would begin when liquidity opened. Well, liquidity opened. And now I have another question. What happens when a project continues selling new tokens after the token is already listed, while the market price is significantly higher than the project's direct sale price? Is that a healthy market structure? Or does it create another layer of supply pressure? I don't want to answer that question for you. I want you to think about it. Because I'm not here to tell you Blockdag is going to zero. I'm not here to tell you Blockdag is definitely a scam. I'm here to say, look at the structure, look at the timeline, look at what was promised, look at what actually happened, and then make your own decision. For me personally, this has been a difficult journey because I was one of the people who trusted the project. I believed in it and I wanted it to succeed. But trust doesn't mean you stop analyzing, and being an investor doesn't mean you have to defend everything the project does. Sometimes, the most responsible thing an investor can do is to step back, remove the emotion, and look at the data again. That's what I've been doing. And that's why this is not the end of my Blockdag investigation. It's another chapter. Because the question is no longer, when will Blockdag list? The question is now, what kind of market structure exists after the listing? And perhaps even more importantly, why is the project still selling BDAG months after the market opened? I want to hear from you. If you're a Blockdag investor, especially an early presale investor, what has your experience been? Were you able to access your tokens? Were you able to deposit? Were you able to withdraw? Were you able to sell when you expected to? And what do you think about the current after sale? Do you think the after sale creates healthy opportunity, or does it create additional structural pressure on the market? Let me know in the comments. Let's discuss this based on facts, not emotion. Because at the end of the day, investors don't need narratives. They need transparency, they need access, they need liquidity, and they need the freedom to make their own decisions. This is Bias Positive Digital Rise, and I'm not here to tell you what to think. I'm here to help you think more clearly. Stay disciplined, look at the data, question the narrative, and always protect your capital.